by 2030 reduce its emission intensity of GDP by 36%, meaning it's going to reduce its annual increase in carbon emission as per its GDP level by 36%. It does not mean that it's going to reduce its actual carbon emission by 36%, which means it's still an increase. Under the Copenhagen Agreement, Singapore has committed to reduce its emission by 7 to 11% below business as usual emission, meaning nothing changes, but the emission change in this term. And in the event of a legal binding international agreement, below 16%. And Singapore actually has a lot of international so-called initiative that is trying to tackle climate change and having climate action. But I will just focus on the domestic and internal initiative. So this is one of the internal initiative, which is the introduction of a carbon tax. Singapore is the first country in the Southeast Asia to implement a carbon tax, and it's currently $5 per ton. But they are going to do a review in 2023, and they are proposing an increase to somewhere between $10 to $15. And besides the carbon tax, there's actually several other initiatives that aims to reduce emission. Another initiative would be the freezing of the COE. Singapore has a certification system for the ownership of private cars. It's called the Certificate of Entitlement, which is COE. Traditionally, there's a specific quota that will be issued every quarter that allows new vehicle to be added into the current pool of vehicle in Singapore. But as of last year's 2nd of February, issuing of new CO has been frozen, ensuring there's no new vehicle being added to the existing pool. But because typically COE expires after 10 years upon issuing, so the expired COE are continued to being replaced. And Singapore has actually so-called planned to adopt more solar power generation by using our reservoir. So it has developed a plan for floating solar panels to be deployed at 4 major reservoirs in Singapore to increase our generation of electricity by solar power. Next is the encouraging of a car-like city. Singapore has currently 6 mass rapid transit lines, which is like our subway lines, and it will further increase it to 12 in the future, and 3 major lines are in fact being built right now, and most of them are being built by Japanese companies. So sometimes you see the advertisement in Japanese TV about Singapore's train system being built. But I feel that the building of the line itself will result in a huge emission, because it's a huge project that involves underground boring and construction of viaducts and new stations. But it's being projected that it will be eventually offset by the reduction in the road vehicles, and Singapore hopes that every household, I think 8 out of 10 households will have a train station within 10 minutes walking distance. And lastly is the improvement of efficiency of household appliances. Right now, Singapore has a system whereby they attach a so-called sticker on every household application when it's being sold in the stores. It so-called has 1 to 3 ticks, and the more ticks it has, the more efficient in terms of energy it is. So currently Singapore allows 1 to 3 ticks, but in the future Singapore wants to remove every electrical appliances that has one tick, meaning if your appliances is not energy efficient, it can't be sold in Singapore. And also, cash vouchers are being issued to households. I think it's around 25 Singapore dollars per household that can be used to purchase LED lighting. Lastly, the challenges I feel that Singapore has remains to be political challenges, because right now Singapore's so-called government is still very focused on economy development, and environmental measures are really a very low priority, and I would actually say it's kind of a greenwashing in a nation's term. Everything is just being done for the sake of being done. And Singapore continues to use the lack of land space as an excuse to defer its environmental responsibility, because the economic impact will be significant to roll out any radical reforms, because I don't feel that Singapore has any excuse. It's one of the sunniest island in Southeast Asia. And in terms of wind, it actually is capable of generating wind power, but none of it has been utilized. And Singapore, by right, as a developing nation,